your favorite weird Turkish speculative evolution people are back. This is the CMTK podcast about Star Wars. This is your co-host CM Kozemen, joined by our other co-host TK Sivgin, broadcasting live from Switzerland and Turkey. Hello, 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 my friend.
Don't you mean Alderaan?
Oh yeah, Switzerland is Alderaan.
Yeah, like literally, if you watch Revenge of the Sith, they literally, I think you can see the Matterhorn in one scene when they show Alderaan. Like they literally just copy-pasted Switzerland.
Well, in that case, I would not know where Turkey would be. Mustafar, or maybe part Mustafar, part Naboo, part Tatooine.
Yeah, I mean, Jabba the Hutt, or apparently originally he was supposed to wear like a fez.
Oh, I did not know that, but I do know that certain like architectural elements in Jabba's palace, as well as the city of Naboo on the planet of Naboo in Episode 1, were directly referenced from like Ottoman structures in Istanbul.
Yeah, like Naboo. No, wait, the Naboo is the planet. The city is called Theed, and Theed is like a mix of Constantinople and I think Waterfall City from Dinotopia. I think like.
Yeah, with bits of Lake Como thrown in.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We've hit the ground running, everybody. Just a preamble. This is a very Star Wars heavy podcast, so in case you feel lost, maybe you need to get pumped up on your lore, because we are both big fans of the Star Wars movies, at least until 2013.
Yes, and today we want to talk about our favorite creatures, because if there's one thing that I think almost all of the movies got very right, it is the creature design.
Yes, I really agree. Personally, I think Star Wars, along with Wayne Barlow and H.R. Giger, was one of the formative media that got me involved with strange creatures in general. I mean...
Oh, absolutely same.
Should I just go with how it started with me, or do you want to go?
Yeah, sure.
Or...
Tell me, like, what is your personal history with Star Wars? Like, have you always known about it? Did you hear from it from friends or parents? What was the first movie you watched?
Mm-hmm. So, before beginning, though, let's shill our Patreons and stuff. You can find me at CM Kozemen on Patreon. The links are below in the video description and in the pinned comments. How about you, my friend?
Well, same. manusbonulus.patreon.com. Wait, how do these URLs work again? Anyway, it's called Manus Bonulus on Patreon.
And anything else you want to promote? I know you got a new book out, which you want
to... almost forgot. In December already, I published a new book. It's a children's book about a family of marine reptiles that one day find a trilobite in their yard.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, and it has my own original art and also a section that is like very science heavy, where I explain like the real life facts behind each creature. So
nice.
If anyone's interested in that, I have a post on my blog where I talk about the whole book.
Oh, that's very good, very, very good. And that's that for the preamble. So if you want, I'm just going straight in with how Star Wars...
Wait, for context of the viewers, to get in the mood right now, I am also in the background watching episode 1. And right now they're in the scene where they're underwater and being chased by those sea monsters.
You are OCD maxing, so you are also watching Star Wars, talking Star Wars. It surrounds you like the spice melange from the Dune universe, spin-off movie, which is about to launch very soon, actually.
I think it already is out. That's the funny thing. Like, Dune is out, and we're doing something about Star Wars.
Yes, that's how rule breaking we are with these.
Tell me, how did you discover Star Wars?
Okay, so I was born in 1984, and ancient history now. When I could form memories, I remember there was a little living room in our house with a VHS video player. And I remember one day my father was just playing a tape of Star Wars, basically. And of course, this is like a very hazy, like one of the core formative startup system boot memories for me. And all I remember is the scenes with the bantas. They're like these some furry animals walking. I thought at first it was like a nature documentary, strange connection. But then there was something different because there are all these like little men with the glowing eyes, the Jawas. And then there was the famous, yeah, there was the famous scrap crawler tank, the thing that looks like a rhombus basically, or a weird trapezoid. And when I saw those, I was like, okay, maybe this is not a documentary. Then it was just full blast. I mean, like for me, Star Wars was always, because of this core childhood memory, always this weird, uncanny film. I mean, for me, the whole thing about like blowing up the Death Star or like the space battles, they were like an afterthought because I watched the first half, like Mos Eisley, the Cantina scene, all the crawler with the weird droids and scrap droids and all those weird creatures in it, and even the famous Dianoga scene where Luke, Leia, and Han dive into the trash compactor, and there's the famous like one-eye alien looking there. For me, it was a film where strange things could come out of every corner, and I always thought that if I watched that long enough, I would encounter more creatures. I don't know. So in that respect, it was very, very formative for me. And that's part one. Let's get with part one of yours, because then I'll have the whole exposure to the 1990s remakes and everything. So now I'll kick the ball over to you.
So like I have two main memories of my first contacts with Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So like for context, I was born 1998, so I was born way too late for the original trilogy, but right when like the prequels were coming out.
Yeah.
But so like I think the very first contact I had with Star Wars, it's a bit of a long story, but a very sweet one. One of my favorite memories with my father.
Mm-hmm.
So back then, I think I was maybe 5 or 6. We had only one computer in the house down in the basement, and on there my father installed like some program that was a children's Wikipedia kind of thing, like a pre-installed encyclopedia aimed at children. And bored, I would just scroll through there and read the entries. And one entry was about alien life, like extraterrestrial life. And I scroll through there and I'm like traumatized because the image they used to illustrate aliens, can you guess what it was?
Chewbacca.
No, it was E.T. the extraterrestrial, and that motherfucker, just his appearance scared me so much as a kid. Like I didn't know he was a good guy, but he just looked like a fucking burn victim, you know? And like 5-year-old me was traumatized by E.T. And I was also in the dark cellar, you know, and so
also fleshy Sumerian god eyes. Yeah, I can see how.
Or like those recent Mexican mummies.
Oh yeah.
So I got scared by that, and like I shut down the computer. I ran upstairs, and my father saw that like something disturbed, and like I couldn't articulate myself, and the only thing I said was, I think, aliens are so ugly, and and I think he got to what happened. So he went down with me again into the basement, and he opened up the computer. And I think on YouTube or like some early video site back then, I think YouTube wasn't really a thing yet.
No.
Yeah. He showed me a clip from Return of the Jedi with the Ewoks and said, "See, son, those are aliens too." And I'm like,
all right.
And I'm like, but they look like teddy bears.
Yeah.
And that was my first contact with Star Wars, I think, and also like my first like eye-opening to like what could be the diversity of alien life, because it's not all just monsters.
Yeah, the diversity seems to be a like running parallel there. Weirdly enough, I was traumatized by the Ewoks because a few years later I watched Return of the Jedi, and then there's this one scene where these 2 Ewoks get killed, and it just hurt me so much watching it. I mean, it was like one of the first cinematic deaths I saw, and it was like, I mean, they really know how to like push the psychological buttons, let me tell you that. So I was like, oh no.
Like the emotional storytelling of George Lucas is very good, I must say.
Yeah, yeah. And I think like he really is turning out to be prophetically right with his secret understanding of politics, but let's tackle that somewhere later.
We will get to that later, yeah. So that was my first contact with Star Wars, and my second one was, funnily enough, Animal Planet, because they had a documentary show called Animal Icons, which was about animal media.
Okay.
Yeah, each episode they had like a different topic. Like one was just about Godzilla, one was just about King Kong, and they had one episode just about the creature design of Star Wars.
Yeah.
How it is all inspired by real life animals and how they find like some justifications for why do the Banthas have fur even though they live in a desert. And they went through each movie, and I was just so fascinated by the diversity of creatures and all of the effects and stuff. And like, wow, this Star Wars, it looks amazing. I have to watch this. And then I asked my father, Dad, can we watch Star Wars? Do we have that? And he gives me like this DVD box with all 6 movies at the time.
Oh, look how lucky you are. Yeah,
the DVD. He had all of the DVD releases. I think he even has like a VHS of like the special editions. Yeah, which came in like the Star Vader box. I wonder if that is. Sorry, my voice is a bit hoarse. I wonder if that box is worth something, because on one hand it's a pretty 90s relic, but on the other hand it's a special edition, so nobody cares about those anymore. But yeah.
Well.
Anyway, sorry. He tells me, son, you have to start with episode 4, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like I start watching episode 4, and it feels like so in medias res that I feel like this feels wrong. I have to start somewhere else, and that's why when I started with episode 1 instead, and I mean I was in the exactly right age for that movie. I just absolutely loved it, and I think it's to this day the Star Wars movie I rewatch the most. I have so much nostalgia for that one.
Oh man, I mean, for me it's also one of the more poignant parts of my life. So moving on to round 2 for me, it's like really weirdly interesting how our fathers are a common theme in these Star Wars memories, because I remember in 1996 my father took me to London because he was going on a business trip or something there, and I remember seeing the upgraded edition of the first Star Wars movie there. And just for some context, in the 1990s George Lucas re-released the Star Wars films with a lot of extra effects, a lot of extra background creatures, and a lot of like CGI improvements. And it was like a exposure for a new generation like me. So now I was like, oh, okay, it's that thing from my childhood with the VHS, but now it's on the big screen, and it was just fantastic. And like one of the nicer things about being in London, we then went out, and in a bookshop I got the making of book for the upgraded episodes 4, 5, and 6. So these books came with all sorts of concept art, and my mind was blown. I was like, okay, so all these creatures, like somebody draws them and then they get put into the film. Wow. Because until then, I mean, I knew these creatures were on the film, but I always
they were actors.
Yeah, either they were actors or like there were just some makeup people on the set, and they would just like bish bash bosh, like put some stuff together. Or maybe George Lucas himself would said, I want this thing or whatever, so it would get made. And now this was a huge eye-opener, because I realized that, okay, there are people whose entire jobs are drawing creatures. And it was like, wow. I mean, it was a turning point moment for me. And that's close to when I started drawing creatures for fun again. My ambition was to like really up my skills and graduate from college. So when the next Star Wars came along, my creatures would be maybe included. That was like a big dream of mine for a time. And it launched me in my in the path leading up to where I am now. There's another coda to this story. So when episode 1 came out, actually this was during a very fortuitous time for my family, because we could afford a trip to New York City. And once again with my father. My mother was out shopping or something. With my father, we went to see the new Star Wars movie in like Union Square, in the Union Square Theater or something. And then it was just like, and like really impacting. Then there's a sad part to this story. So a few months later, there was a big earthquake in Turkey in 1999, and we lost my grandmother. And then this set off a chain of like financial and family crises. Like, not to get too deep into those, but a few years later, my grandfather also died. Our family business was impacted, and yeah, it's been a while. You get used to it. But so this was like for me. I mean, everything aside, like, I mean, it's also a kind of pathetic in some ways. But for me, like seeing episode one in New York City Union Square was just like, for me, for a long time, it was like, okay, this is as good as it will get probably ever. Then you have to consider a few years later, the 9/11 also happened, and like, and then there were like lots of economic crises around the world, and the Iraq War started, and then I think like my whole area of the world, Turkey, kind of became more parochial after that. It was like part of the Middle East after that, and but like in those 90s, there was this like brief period leading up to 9/11, where this is like an ultra niche cultural imperialism memoir kind of thing, but there was a brief period leading up to 9/11 in Turkey when the economy was so bad that for most most forms of luxury consumption, dollars were actually, and everybody was convinced that America was number one. Many people even kind of considered themselves American despite having like no connection to America, like they weren't US citizens or anything. Like American music, movies. I mean, I remember Independence Day played in a theater in Istanbul, and when the president gave his...
Wait, that was also 99, right?
96.
Ah.
And in that movie, when the president gave his speech, everybody like rose up and cheered. It was like a very, very strange time. And of course, then again, all those like wars and quote unquote terror started. And then, like many other parts of the world, that people saw that United States was what's called a good day's friend. And I guess a lot of that was just like active machinations of cultural imperialism. Nevertheless, I mean, it's a complicated thing. And I don't want to dive too deep into it. So
yeah.
Back at you and
It's
back
funny,
at Star Wars.
It's funny though you mentioned that, because there's a scene in episode 3 where Anakin almost directly quotes George W. Bush.
Oh, if you're not
Like-
with me, you're against me.
Yeah, if you are not with me, you are my enemy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't think any of those are coincidences, by the way.
Yeah, I think, like, what did Bush say? Like, if you are...
You're
not
either with us or against us.
You're either with us or you're with the terrorists. I think something more direct like that. Yeah. Well, anyway, we can talk either about politics or the sequels. What is more controversial?
Creatures.
Yeah. So let's just, I guess, start with episode 4 and talk about the creatures there.
Yeah, okay, so we're kind of like changing gears from memories and real life shit mode to speculative evolution mode. And like, why don't you go first? Because I've been speaking for a while.
I mean, yeah, like, what is the first alien we see in episode 4? Now that I think about it, I think
Bantas.
I think it's the Jawas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
because
yeah.
they capture. Well, no, technically, I think the first one is like the skeleton of this crate dragon.
Oh yes. I actually made a reconstruction of that thing using that frame.
I've seen that, yeah. And like, I think there's like many different versions of that. Like, I think there, look here, in like the wildlife of Star Wars, there is like this sketch of the crate dragon. Not sketch, full drawing, but it's like looks like a medieval lindworm almost, like very literal dragon. But then, when it actually showed up in The Mandalorian, it looked more like a sandworm from...
Yeah. Plus, there's a very older Ralph McQuarrie painting showing it more like a monitor lizard with the head of a Chinese dragon. And it's all golden in color. Yeah. Now we're looking at the Terrell Whitlatch drawing. And I mean, biomechanically, it's a more plausible design for a gigantic creature, and
Yeah, that's like
it's got
8 legs.
yeah, it's got 8 legs, but because it's the size of a small mountain, I think you would need 8 legs or multiple legs to like shuffle around, basically.
Or no legs.
Yeah, yeah, either that or that. So it's one of the interestingly prevalent niche giant sand creatures that inhabit Hollywood and the
Yeah,
the
like
popular
everything,
culture in general.
like everything in sci-fi comes some way back.
Yeah, yeah. Mm. In a way, true. Was Dune written when the first Star Wars came out?
Yeah, I think Dune came out like 1954. I think.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I think there's like this anecdote of J.R.R. Tolkien refusing to write a critique on the book.
Yeah, because he hated it.
Yeah, because he didn't he didn't like it, but he didn't want to write an official critique of it because he didn't want to damage the reputation of the author. So that was kind of considerate, I guess.
Or he's like flexing, like, I don't want to end your career right there.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I think he recognized that he just didn't like the book because he was religiously biased against it, and I think he knew that was unfair. Because
Wow.
like Dune is very critical of religion, and Tolkien was a devout Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so like after the great dragon skeleton, the first real living aliens you meet, I think, are the Jawas.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know they're cute, but they're also a little best.
Yeah, yeah. But it also, I mean, this is one of the geniuses of George Lucas that with those very, very simple materials, I don't think the Javas had a concept designer, or if there was, it was just like something created by a costume designer. Basically, they just took 2 light bulbs and like a ski mask and made this thing with and
I cannot remember where I read this or if this was even episode 4, but apparently there is like some deleted scene where you see a guy accidentally stepping on a Jawa's tail. So it's
tail.
Like, yeah, so it's like implied that under their hoods they're like big rodent creatures.
I don't know, could be. But do you think instead of going through all creatures in every movie, we should just, you and I, take turns mentioning our favorite creatures from each film?
Yeah. Either favorite creatures or I guess with the Cantina favorite scenes.
Yeah. I think the Cantina scene
Let's
deserves
talk about the Cantina. It's so
special attention.
Legit one of my favorite movies because it has just such a comfortable feeling. It's strange to say, but I don't know. As a kid, I always just loved this idea of all of these different creatures from different star systems, different biologies and such, just all coming together in a bar and having a drink together, having a nice time.
Yeah.
It's like such a positive outlook. I love that.
Yeah. I think originally they tried to make it a bit like dark. I mean, it was a kind of place where the weird things were supposed to be.
Yeah.
But it actually comes across as a like, I mean, if there's one place I could like go to in the Star Wars universe, this would probably be it, because every other setting, mostly every other setting in the whole universe is a martial scene. It's like a scene of war, or like some big cataclysm is about to happen, or somebody's about to die. But it's one of the few settings in the movie where you just see things vibing. And a caveat on the Cantina scene, I think it's this like caricature of America, really, because you see how you have people from all nationalities, all parts of the world. Different lifestyles are implied, like weirdos, or like there's even a little scene where 2 different aliens are seen making out. There's something that looks like an elephant with like not even an elephant, like a proboscis alien is making out with this weird demon guy or something.
Okay.
I think
I can't remember that.
it's the alien is called a Pat chip, Patchch.
The demon one.
No, that's like the proboscis alien. And so I think it's a great commentary on America, because, and not in a derisive, critical way either. I mean, especially if you look at American cities in the 1970s and all that, it really was like a melting pot of very, very disparate and strange characters, most of whom who were relegated to a life of crime. So I always read into that with the whole scene. And it's a pity how like we're not gonna. I know before recording we made a promise not to talk about the Disney Star Wars movies, but
I mean, we can talk a little about them. I have some things to say about them, but go on.
in the Disney Force Awakens or whatever, there's also another Cantina scene, but it just doesn't give the same reaction because now everybody's aware that it's a place where the cool weird characters hang out. Look at the cool gangster. Look at the cool tentacle girls. Oh, look at the cool robot. Oh, he's red. He's got a story, all right. It's just so formulaic. I don't know.
Yeah, at least The Last Jedi did something more creative with that, with the casino scene.
Yeah, and that was like a hat tip to maybe international arms sales or something.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like they did literally all of the richest assholes in the galaxy that couldn't care less on which side of the war they're on.
Yeah. I mean, going back at episode 4, I think my favorite alien of all that film shows up in that scene. It's this thing that looks like a teddy bear with jumping spider eyes. It's called Muftak, Muftak, Muftak.
I think I have a cousin with that name. Nope.
And he's got a little bat-faced friend named Cabe, so Kabe. And
the bat I remember, but I don't know Muftak. Wait, let me look that up.
I mean, so it's implied. I also
I know which one you mean, like this snow monster guy with the 4 eyes.
Yeah, it's exactly like a furry guy with jumping spider eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems so simple, but you would imagine like a lot of humanoid creatures would look like furry creatures, huh? But this guy has 4 eyes, so you see he evolved from a whole other lineage. Maybe he's an arthropod under that fur. I don't know. But it always got me thinking, like, such a simple but cool design. He also has a little proboscis and it's implied that he's a nectar drinker. And actually, in the extended novelizations, there's a book called Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina, and you can read stories of basically all these creatures. And it's implied in that book that this guy evolved on a planet with giant flowers, and like these teddy bear people would like get in the flowers and crawl around and like just enjoy themselves. But that was just such an idyllic setting. So in the extended universe, this character was banished from the flower world to the desert planet of Tatooine. So there.
I think that's no longer canon that they're from a flower world, because I'm guessing you haven't watched the Clone Wars TV show.
Oh yes, they appear there too. I remember that. Yes.
Like they have like a whole episode where like the Republic wants to make contact with them on the ice planet.
Oh,
so they're like,
maybe that changed.
Yeah, they're like on an ice planet, and like Anakin and Obi-Wan want to make like peaceful contact with them, but there is this one guy, I think it was even like Grand Moff Tarkin, before he became Grand Moff, like wanting to wipe them out, like, this like classic tale of like Empire versus Indigenous. I remember that story.
How about you, my friend?
From the Cantina, my favorite creature. Oof, that's hard. And as a kid, I was always fascinated with this hammerhead creature,
Yeah, you
like
always struck me as a Ithorian type. Yes.
Ithorian, exactly, that's the name, which has like mouths on the side of the head, and that's so alien, yeah. And there's also this monitor lizard creature that's wearing like this Rastafari hat.
Yeah.
And like smoking.
That was a new edition.
That's a new edition. Okay.
But still counts.
Yeah, I mean, you're from the 80s. You saw these movies before George Lucas specialized them.
Yeah, I mean, some of the aliens there, like there's something that looks like a werewolf, and in the extended universe they call it a Shivan Sharan Wolfman or like some fancy name. But in the making of the movies, it was just literally a Halloween mask somebody just bought from a store, just like that.
Yeah, there is this anecdote from Mark Hamill that when he read the script, he was like so fascinated by the scene, and then when he saw the actual set, he was like super disappointed how cheaply everything looked. Like the making of the first Star Wars movie, it's so fascinating how it could have turned out to be such a catastrophe, like such a disaster, and it still turned out well in the end. It's so amazing.
I mean, it was like a student film almost. Some aspects of the budget and filming.
I guess so, yeah.
But that whole spirit and how it is currently extinguished in Hollywood is, I think, part of the reason why we never see such like generation defining intellectual properties like Star Wars anymore.
Yeah,
But
it's weird.
but do go on. It's cool that you like the Ithorian creature, the hammerhead, because in universe those things are meant to be like master genetic engineers and they can create new life forms. They are basically like so as a
I think,
person invested in speculative evolution, it's like double cool that this was your favorite design.
yeah. The only thing I know about them in the lore is that they're like naturally not force sensitive. Like there's barely any Jedi from that.
Oh,
And that's like one aspect that I did not like about the prequels, like with the whole midichlorians and such, that like there's certain species that cannot connect with the Force, like the Toydarians, and
yeah.
I just always thought that is kind of wrong, because in this movie, Episode 4, Obi-Wan himself says the Force flows through every creature.
Yeah,
And
that's true. That's
and I
true.
always got the impression that the original intention was that, like if you work on yourself, if you like meditate and such, anyone could force.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the series, there are interesting caveats. Before the prequels, there was a book called Heir to the Empire, and
Oh yeah, the
it's
Thrawn trilogy, right?
yeah, and one of the tricks that Throne uses is so in a world there are in a far off jungle world there are these tiger predators that hunt with the Force. They're so good at using the Force, they don't even have eyes. They look like alien eyeless jungle tigers, which are, I think, a great image to conjure. But in order to combat them, there is this species called the Ysalamir. And these are these very strange tree creatures. They're like furry salamanders, but big. And they live on trees.
Wait, I think that's actually in the Whitlatch book. Yeah, go on. I'll look this up.
So the Ysalamir creatures, they have this force field which negates the use of the force. And then one of Admiral Thrawn's plans involves capturing these creatures and using them as a shield against the Jedi. And in order to make that work in the book plot, they actually went. Yeah, that's a Ysalamir. Yeah, exactly. But in the book, they even engage in further speculative evolution, and they say that the Salamiri are so good at this force repelling field that basically nothing can sense them. And when they reach the top of their powers, they have claws like sloths actually. And the claws grow into the trees and they become part of the tree. And they just hang in there, drawing nourishment from the tree and just invalidating the force. Now, of course, this was a plot device because in the book they used these wood block attached Ysalamir, and they kind of like put them in mobile terrariums or whatever, and they use these as like backpacks which can negate the force of the Jedi. Whatever, it's a kind of a stretch, but
yeah, I also always got the feeling that it's just a plot device, because in Episode 1 the only purpose was to explain why Qui-Gon couldn't just mind rape Watto into selling them this spaceship part. Why are you like? What does Watto say? Like, why are you waving your hand like that?
Work on me. Only money.
Only money. I love Watto so much, even though he's kind of like an anti-Semitic stereotype, to be honest.
Yeah, that's much has been made of that, but yeah, I don't know. I guess like that charge has been levied against many species in the prequels. I mean, people compare the Nemoidians to Arab sheikhs or even Asians, and then
Don't they have like French accent?
I don't know. Maybe they come from Indochina. Then I don't know. But
Funny
and-
that you say that in the German dub they replaced the accents with Chinese accent.
oh, I mean that whole Mandarin clothing they wear and stuff. And don't even get me started on the Gungans, because I don't want to get this podcast cancelled.
Yeah, we will get to the prequels in a minute. So Episode 4, we have the Cantina scene.
Yeah.
Talked about our favorite creatures. We also meet Chewbacca. I love Chewbacca. He's just there is this anecdote that George Lucas based Chewbacca, like personality-wise, on his own dog, and apparently the idea behind Chewbacca was like, what if my dog was intelligent enough that he could help me steer the spaceship? And that's just so cute to think about, that he's just like this big dog that wants to be friends with everyone, and I think
also will rip your arm off. So
yeah, but you really feel it like when Peter Mayhew plays him. He's such a great actor in that suit.
yeah. For a weird reason, Chewbacca didn't even register as a creature in my mind when I was watching the films.
Yeah, right. He's just
like a human. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's just this hairy thing, but I didn't like. I wasn't curious about him in the same way as I was curious about some of the organic creatures or even some of the weirder robots. But yeah, for me, it was just a hairy dog. And okay, move on. Yeah.
But he's so adorable. So after that, there is not much creature action unless you count the special editions, because in the special editions they add like the dew bags, which are actually pretty cool.
And the Rontos.
Ronto, yeah, those are cool.
So just to describe for our viewers, in the new version, they add like 20 seconds of extra scenes showing Mos Eisley with CGI, and there's all sorts of like CGI vehicles and creatures running around the town, and it looks like something from Dinotopia because there's like weird vehicles and strange creatures all over the place, including this Ronto thing, which looks like something like a giraffe.
Like a Paraceratherium.
Yeah, like an Indricoteer, but with a head reminiscent of a Ceratopsian. One of the great designs by Terrell Whitlatch, of course.
I think that thing was added directly in response to Jurassic Park. Like, I mean, the special editions came out very shortly after Jurassic Park, and like George Lucas was like so amazed by the Brachiosaurus that he wanted to add something like that in Star Wars.
Could be. I mean, that whole extended Mos Eisley scene with the dewbacks, the Rontos, and the speeders and everything. It was, I think, also the production company, Industrial Light and Magic, flexing their muscles, just showing, we can do this now, So I think it was like a premonition of things to come.
Oh, there's Rontos right in the scene I'm watching right now. It's the start of the pod race. Like they're dragging in the racing vehicles into the arena.
God damn.
Yeah.
That movie is really good. Yeah.
The funny thing is about the dewbacks, they were originally supposed to be in the first version of the movie. Like they actually built a prop.
Yeah.
A physical prop, but it looked so bad that they cut it out.
Yeah, and actually it's a great design. The dewback is like this giant lizard creature, but it's got a forehead like the melon of a beluga whale, and stormtroopers ride around on them. I think they did make a prop, but it was just like this carnival attraction that could only open and close its mouth, so they cut it from the final film.
Yeah, probably for the better.
I don't know. I mean, if something like that was real, it would not look very photogenic. It would look like a still rock. That's thing always.
True. That is true. That's like a big problem with a lot of even modern sci-fi, that it looks too clean, like too shiny.
I mean, so every creature that appears in movies in general has a sort of idle animation. Like when you're looking at it, it's just like it's kind of like moving like in a slow way, like either shuffling or like moving its head or body. And so the audience sees, okay, there's a creature there. But actually, if you look at real life things like sea iguanas or something,
yeah, they're very static.
They don't move. They look like rocks or something. This dewbacks always reminded me of these quote unquote anapsids or paraeosaurs, or those like very strange early Permian reptiliomorphs. Just a little context.
Diadectes. That's what you think. What I think you mean.
Diadectes, or for some reason I always likened it more to Scutosaurus with the long legs, the weird. Anyways, we're getting carried away.
Always remind me more of that creature from the arena in episode 2. The one with the horn. It had a name, like Reek or something like that.
Yeah, there was the Reek.
Was the Nexu
and
praying mantis thing.
I'm getting old. I need to look it up.
Me too. I forgot. We will get to that later. Episode 4. So after they leave Tatooine, there is not really much creature action unless you count the Dianoga in the trash compactor. But you only see like the eye, I think, and maybe the arm.
That whole Dianoga scene gives me the same like flavor as Ridley Scott's original Alien. Like that little bit there with all the little machines and like the space junk and trash and like some weird creature lurking there.
Wait, what came first actually? Alien or Star Wars? Like Star Wars is 77. I think Alien is 76.
I think Alien came first, but it's from the same headspace. I'm confident.
Yeah, like I think they were being worked on around the same time.
Yeah. And how about episode 5 now? Empire Strikes Back.
So yeah, we have the Tauntaun first. That's a creature, honestly. Basically like a big kangaroo that walks like a theropod.
Yeah. And adapted for ice. Actually, my favorite creature there is the Imperial probe droid. Even though it's a robot, the whole thing of like this weird thing with eyes and it floats about. And it speaks too. Like, it was like really uncanny to see something as removed from a human or even an animal form like that, like forming sentences and stuff. And it's just the whole sense of like floating, detached omnipotence. I think you see its echoes later on in intellectual properties, even such as Warhammer, where with the Tyranid race, like, not to get too deep into that, but with Tyranids, they are like a organic warrior race in the Warhammer universe, and they are basically like this one genetically mutable colony of just creatures like look like insects and reptiles. My favorite. And there's something attached to the Tyranids that looks like a probe droid, but it's only made like it's like a floating jellyfish kind of thing. I don't know what it does, but it comes from the same place, I think, or I want to believe.
Yeah.
How about you?
I mean, the Wampa always kind of scared me. I mean, but it's literally just a Yeti with horns, so it's not that creative. Yeah. What I really loved always was like the asteroid slug. You know, when
yes,
when
and
they're
the
like hiding
Minox.
inside an asteroid, and then they realize they are inside a bigger creature, and it's this giant like moray eel slug thing, which makes you wonder like what does this thing eat if it's living out in space?
Yeah, and what else lives there? Exactly.
Yeah. Well, there's the Minox, and yeah, that's a cool thing. I think has never really been explored. Apparently, like these. The space slug and the Minox, which are like these little bat creatures, they are apparently silicon-based life forms that like feed on spaceships.
Feed on spaceships, or I think it's also implied that they can metabolize the rock itself.
Yeah, apparently Coruscant has a problem with like these silicon-based life forms that literally eat the concrete of the buildings.
Yeah, they're called concrete worms or Durasteel worms or something.
Yeah, Duracell worms.
Just keep going and going. But the Minox were really well designed, considering how little they appear in the movie. They just appear for like...
Oh, I found them. Granite slugs, that's their name.
Yeah, true.
And Shadow Barnacle.
The Minox, they had this mouth like a Radiolarian or a leech almost. But their wings look so batty and Lovecraftian. It's just a wonderful design. It's like... Oh, yeah. So we're looking at the Terrell Whitlatch depictions of
the concrete slug.
Yes, the concrete slug and
the barnacle.
Shadow barnacles. By the way, if you're watching this episode and you're curious about the wildlife of Star Wars, you have to get this one book. It's called surprise, The Wildlife of Star Wars with Terrell Whitlatch. Even if you don't give two flying cents about Star Wars, which is okay. It's still, if you're interested in creature design, you have to get this book. Terrell Whitlatch is a wonderful artist, and it's kind of a playful book, and it really shows you what you can do with creature design, and like basically it also shows you how you can combine text with images to create a sort of expository narrative. Strongly recommended. In fact, let's put this in the show's video description thing. I made a note and it will be there.
Okay.
Yeah. Check the links below, the pinned comment. And if you're watching this far, please say what your favorite creatures from the Star Wars universe is.
Also, your least favorite creature. I'm interested about that too.
There's a lot of those. But anyways, Dan, I don't think there's much creature action going on in episode 5.
Yoda.
Also the Dagobah creatures.
Dagobah, yes. Yeah, I mean the thing I always found funny about Dagobah is that in some things you don't see aliens but just literal snakes and monitor lizards.
Yeah, they cheated a little, didn't they? They like
Yeah.
went to a zoo or something and got literally like a boa constrictor appears.
Yeah, and there's literally like some behind the scenes stuff where poor Mark Hamill gets like bitten by the snakes.
Oh.
I'm like I feel so bad for the guy because apparently for weeks he had to be alone on this set, this swamp set with all these like dangerous animals, and like the only co-star he had was this puppet, this Muppet.
Plot revealed: Dagobah was Florida all along with all those invasive escaped reptiles.
Yeah,
what a wonderful.
Yeah, in the Terry Whitledge book, there are some interesting creatures also living on Dagobah, like the Reptavian birds that look like the Reptavian birds. There's this like boa crocodile thing with arms. There's a giant slug.
They have these spider trees.
Yes,
really. And these were actually created by Ralph McQuarrie, the legendary concept artist of the first Star Wars films. And they look like these like giant white spiders made out of yogurt. They also resemble to a degree, well, they seem to have inspired this one Gonarch creature from Half-Life. Yeah. And these things like basically live as spiders. Then they root around. They like stay still and turn into trees.
Yeah.
And as a kid, when I read this, my mind was blown. It was like one of the first times I considered, okay, something like that could happen, you know?
Yeah.
It hasn't
like
happened.
Animals.
Haven't seen it. But yeah, it was just like really mind expanding.
It's just too bad that it doesn't actually appear in the movie. But they actually reused this creature in a very good episode of The Mandalorian.
Yes, I remember. But they're on an ice world there.
Yeah, that's the weird part. Like maybe it's like imported, maybe it's like an escaped animal.
Yeah, or I think it's like one of the not so great thing about the Disney Star Wars is that when Disney got the intellectual property, they basically got every concept and sketch, and you can see everything that in every form of media that was released after the Disney takeover. You see some crudely recycled concepts from the earlier films, as if they were too scared to hire creative artists or make those decisions. And it's just like one of the things that are like darkly wrong with the whole Disney takeover and darkly wrong with the entire way creative things are made in the contemporary world.
We will destroy Disney later. Don't worry. Soon, my apprentice.
Makes me mad.
Yes, let the hate flow. Anyway, I think probably the best effect in the whole movie, Yoda. Let's be honest. George Lucas himself said, like, if Yoda didn't work, the whole movie wouldn't work, and that's very true.
He's a very relatable creature. I remember like feeling calmer and relaxed when I watched him.
Yeah, he's a grandpa. He's just.
Yeah. But once again, like Chewbacca, I did not register Yoda as an alien. He was like a different sort of human. Like,
I just love this reveal that, I don't know, you can't pull off anymore today. That he, like, when Luke first meets him, he thinks, oh, this is just some like hillbilly living in the woods and not the actual Jedi master that he's looking for.
Then he says one of the greatest lines ever: "Wars don't make one great." That's a really nice, like.
Judge me by my size, do you?
Okay, maybe not that, but he says, "I'm looking for a great warrior," and he says, "Wars don't make one great." But yeah, truer words have never been spoken.
But yeah.
By the way, it's been an hour. Can I take a toilet break and then we cut here and we start another recording?
Yeah, wait, let me just go. Let me press this button.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're live again. Okay. We were at Yoda, and I mean, yeah, he's just a great character played by Frank Oz, who also does Miss Piggy. I always loved that.
Yeah. And you have to remember, in those days, in the 80s and early 90s, animatronic characters were a big deal. And in a lot of cases, basically talking about how many servo motors or like how many people it took to puppet this thing was like a big part of even the press release. I mean, movie studios made a point of saying like, oh, our latest character has 48 motors just for the face alone, and it takes like 6 people to puppet for the mouth and face expressions. And then towards the end of the 90s, this technology reached like an apogee of sophistication, and then it was kind of slowly lost with the advent of CGI.
Yeah. Like just yesterday I watched this great video about the rise and fall of Jim Henson Productions. Like, because like right before CGI took off, they made The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, where like the entire movie is basically just like these Muppet and animatronic effects, and it looks so amazing.
Yeah.
You just wonder, why couldn't this have become like its own genre, like movies that are entirely just puppets? Well, not puppets, like animatronic, like no human characters. Everything is like a physical special effect. And that era of movie never saw the light of day because everyone started using CGI.
Yeah. I think that's the reason why. I mean, for some reason, computer chips never developed above a certain stage. Maybe something like that could have happened. Who knows? I'm really like, these days I'm really curious about this like alternative history where, let us say, computers were never, for some reason, never faster than an Amiga or a Commodore 64. You could still like have a lot of computer stuff, but for a lot of like real life networking and stuff, life would be so much different.
Yeah, and then we end up with Mentats and Dune and Spice.
Maybe, I don't know. Though, like, if the upper permissible limit is Commodore 64, you could still have people crunching out the numbers, but I think it would mean like basically more employment for people who use those machines. So maybe not Mentats, but at least a lot more jobs, and I don't know.
But I am also grateful for CGI because, I mean, for some movies it's the entire personality. Like Jurassic Park, that movie could have worked if Phil Tippett used stop motion like he originally wanted, but it wouldn't have been this like groundbreaking thing.
No, I agree.
It would have been like, it would have probably been seen as just like the swan song of that stop motion era.
Yeah.
Not like the groundbreaking beginning of a new era.
They called it go motion towards the last bit.
Go motion, like that's another thing I keep thinking about. Like go motion was like this idea, you do stop motion, but you digitally add like motion blur.
No, that's a recent thing. So actually go motion was, they invented a form of armature, and they use this in The Empire Strikes Back too, so it is relevant to our podcast. When a character is moving, they make the model move by a centimeter or a millimeter just as the frame is being recorded. So it makes for far more realistic, like the legs seem more blurry as they move, and like their motions seem more fluid. It doesn't have the sort of rictus effect you see with Harryhausen stop motion. Like
I think the Tauntauns use that.
Yeah, the Tauntauns use that definitely, and I think
the Rancor, I think they wanted to use it for the Rancor, but then they opted to use a puppet.
Yeah. And the Phil Tippett concept footage for Jurassic Park, I think, also had this thing going.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and to all our viewers, go on YouTube and type in Prehistoric Beast. That's a short movie created by Tippett to showcase this go motion technique, and it's like just a short movie about like two dinosaurs fighting, but it looks amazing for the time. Yeah,
the sound effects, everything. It's really, I unlocked so many core memories now. But moving on with Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're done with Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing. Yeah, like on Bespin, we don't see any creatures. There are creatures in the lore, but they're not shown in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's move to the best creature movie of them all, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, like, oh god, like first we have like all of these weird dudes in Jabba's palace, and Jabba the Hutt himself. Jabba, like, he's so disgustingly amazing.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so even though he was a character, he did not register as a human. He registered as a creature because he had this like totally weird anatomy, and it's actually a great risk. Like, movie producers rarely take such risks. Usually, like, when it's a key character, even if he or she is an alien, these things are usually portrayed as more humanoid things. But in case of Jabba the Hutt, he's more like a reptile, really. He has no rear legs, just very short arms, and just like
he's a big slug.
Big slug or frog, or like a totally different anatomy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's just so many to pick from there. So which would be your favorite?
Oh, in Jabba's palace. Oh, that's so hard to say. Like, I mean, there is this rat monkey. That's literally its name. There's
Salacious Crumb.
Salacious. Doesn't he have also like a middle initial, like Salacious P Crumb? And
maybe I don't know.
Yeah. There's like in the special editions they added like these performance creatures, you know, that have like their own music number, and that's like that's such a weird scene that always takes me out of the movie.
Yeah, the Size Noodles band. It was actually a like really nice R&B kind of song. Yeah. But that was fantastic. Actually,
but it just doesn't fit in the movie. I think it's weird.
Yeah, in the original Return of the Jedi, there's like a weirder song, and it's like almost atonal, and the melody is very indistinct. It sounds like a weird, like Middle Eastern opium den, and
but I think that's better because then it's more alien.
Like, yeah, that's actually
if it doesn't. Like a realistically alien music would not sound good to human ears.
Yeah, it was like really uncanny to see this creature size snootles, and just for the description, it looks like a mix between a tea kettle and an anencephalic baby. That is to say, one of those babies whose heads don't develop and you just have like two eyes and a frog face. It looks really gross and like weird. And then this thing in the original Return of the Jedi, it's like this very weird, gnarly creature. The music it makes doesn't even sound like music, like some weird, like almost Lovecraftian. In the extended 1996 edition, special edition, they give him very weird human eyes and a human lip, but the rest of the creature looks the same. It still looks like a weird anencephalic tea kettle thing. And then they make her sing this weird once again, like almost like rhythm and blues number, and it just is uncanny. Like there's even a scene where she blows a kiss to the camera and stuff like that. And don't even get me started about the name of the genre of that music.
Jizz, right?
Jizz wailers, yeah.
Yeah, and that's like that's also the genre of the Cantina band music.
Yeah, that aged like fine milk, yeah. Jizz wailers.
Jizz wailers. Yeah. The George Lucas, he was one horny guy. Like, didn't he tell like Carrie Fisher, in space there is no underwear. Like, so apparently Leia doesn't like the actress wasn't wearing anything underneath her robe in the first movie.
Oh, I don't know about that, but Carrie Fisher was like in real life like too hot to handle character. Like she was always partying and like seducing a lot of different guys, always doing coke. Yeah,
I think she had an affair with Harrison Ford in the first movie. Like she confessed to that, and
I mean,
it was kind of a minor drama because he was actually married at the time.
Ooh, well, I mean, Harrison Ford was a hot item too, and you know, it takes two to tango. That's all I'll say. I don't know. They were both hot stuff, and like, you know, you mix two and two together, and come on, sometimes in Hollywood that's like an occupational hazard. I don't know, but like from what I have been able to glean from reading like Hollywood memoirs or just gossip columns, Carrie Fisher was like a wild party person, like high energy all the time, and it was like in retrospect how it was kind of weird how they typecast her as a kind of like almost Hillary Clinton type, like maternal figure in the other Star Wars Disney films, where it's like, I mean, they could have.
I'm always like a bit shocked when I see her in interviews where she has this very self-deprecating humor.
Yeah. I mean,
she like complains about, oh, if I'm too fat, they will just replace me with Jodie Foster or whatever. And I'm like, why are you so harsh on yourself?
Well, I mean, look, Hollywood. I mean, any sort of performative art is just generally kind of harsh on women in general. I think Hollywood is no exception. But anyways, I mean, just that whole era was like glamorous. But going back to Jabba's palace.
Yeah,
From
the Rancor.
Oh,
You have to talk about the Rancor. That's such just a cool looking monster.
yeah. I mean, it's just like a reptilian version of King Kong.
Exactly.
And
Like in the lore, I think they call it a reptile-like, no, like a mammal-like reptile. Like Star Wars has like its own taxonomic definitions with like reptilians, mammal-like reptiles, true avians, and such. Like that's the one thing we can talk about, like that it's a bit too Earth-like for like a sci-fi universe. But I think that's also kind of just part of Star Wars' personality.
Yeah, I mean, to hit on that, I think this universe is so somehow in the Star Wars universe, star transport between stars is just so easy that everything has been like shuffled around for millions of years. So I think you got like lines of evolution leaping across different planets, and in numerous cases you see the same animals living on different planets, and I guess in that way it's kind of consistent. Like if you got the technology to like go from planet A to planet B as if you were driving from one town to another in I don't know, the Midwestern United States or something, then it goes to figure that everything would be a bit homogenized. So
yeah, I mean I think that's been a long-standing like fan theory that is basically an all tomorrows type situation happening in the Star Wars galaxy, that there was this ancestral like humanoid species that colonized the whole galaxy, and then everything just diverged from there, and that's why so many of the aliens are humanoid.
yeah, I mean,
and I guess that also applies to the creatures. Maybe they also all descend from some original livestock, and that's why they all kind of have...
exactly. Like all the animals are that galaxy's versions of like cats, pigeons, chickens, cows, pigs, mongoose, stuff like that. Anyways, just a theory, of course. Who knows?
Yeah.
The Rancor. It was really sad when it died. You know, like
Yeah, like that scene always stands out to me. Like it dies, and then you see like one of its former handlers just crying about it.
Yeah.
Like you never see that in other movies. That it imply like it's a very nice way to imply, okay, this was not just a mindless monster. This actually was someone's pet, so to say, and someone actually cared for it. And it's so sad actually when you consider that. And that's something I really love about Star Wars, that nothing, like no character, no creature feels just like a prop, but everything has its own story that you can expand on.
Yeah, in the lore, the Rancor Keeper was secretly trying to kill Jabba, but yeah, I mean, it was just like, but before he could do it, actually, they blew his barge up anyways. But I think there's so many fantastic creatures in that whole part of the movie. My favorite two creatures, one of them is Max Rebo, the blue elephant organ guy. He's just fantastic. And it's also implied that, so he's like this fat, vaguely elephant-like creature that's neon blue, almost like the Bladderhorn in Darwin 4, the expedition book. And the way it seems to have no mouth, but its fingers have these like really weird mouth-like suckers, and it's hinted that it feeds with its hands. It's like a total alien thing in that weird universe.
But it's cute.
Yeah, it's actually very cute too. And that actually, in that movie's context, makes it more realistic because, well, some animals are just weird and cute. Yeah, like chinchillas and shit. So, kind of makes...
Also, like, I think it's in the Boba Fett show where they confirm that he actually survived.
Yeah, it would be a crime to have him die, of course.
Have you watched the Robot Chicken Star Wars episode where they just parody all of the movies?
Unfortunately not, no.
And there is like just one sketch dedicated to this guy where the gag is like he emerges from like the crashed Jabba ship and he says like, "Oh man, I'm gonna miss the gig, man." and it's all about him like going through the desert. I'm not gonna miss my gig, man. And at the end, he misses the gig, and it's so sad.
In the book, in the extended lore book, Tales from Jabba's Palace, you got stories for all these creatures, including Max Rebo and the other singing creatures, and it's implied that they all survive. There's also another creature called, he's member of the Kiontak race. I forgot his name, but he's the one that looks like a weird mole with no eyes. Remember that guy, the flute playing guy?
No, I don't.
So there's a third creature in the Max Rebo band. I forgot what he's called, but he's a member of the Kiontak race. That's Kiontak. And he looks like this sort of like turnip or shield-headed, almost mole man kind of thing with no eyes. Also another very creative design. And he plays the flute, and he's just awesome. And then another favorite creature in Jabba's palace is this thing called an Aman, which is this 3-meter tall, flat banana-shaped, weird stingray-faced monster with very long arms. It looks like a UFO encounter creature. It's called Aman.
Aman. Okay, I legit don't remember that one.
Go look him up. He's called Aman or Amanin, both of which coincidentally. In Turkish, both of these words mean oh my. So I don't know. Somebody in the department.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. Yeah, it looks.
It looks weird. Aman, that creature appears like for a femtosecond in the background because it was just such an ungainly prop. They couldn't make it move, so it's just standing there for a second. And
reminds me of like a tropical frog for some reason.
Yeah. It's like the whole. So it's a humanoid creature, but it's like grotesque and like it's a very awesomely creative design. There was one guy doing this. I think it was like either Phil Tippett or Joe Johnston, and like in a documentary he talks about like I would go there in the morning, play with clay, and like just create 4 or 5 guys by the day's end, and like this was one of them. Just like he just had no plans, just bish bash bosh made these creatures, and that was that. Such talent.
Yeah, there was this like I think to promote Prehistoric Planet. What was his name? The guy that basically runs Star Wars right now at Disney. Like he had this interview talk with Darren Naish, where he said like a lot of the creature design in Star Wars is basically kit bashing, like in Warhammer.
Exactly. I mean, that's a cool kind of like. As a creature designer myself, I do that sometimes where in Photoshop I convert images of different creatures to black and white so it's a better fit, and then I just play with them, distort them and stuff, and it always looks extremely like just looks very real. And if you know what to mix with what, you can get like really nice results. And just a suggestion, if you want to like get some creative experiments done or like get inspiration, try that, like black and white collages with different animals. And I'm sorry, I've been hogging the mic, but I have to also mention the ultimate, least known, most obscure, like weirdest Star Wars creature ever. Doesn't even appear in any of the books because it was an experiment. And I only know this thanks to my good friend Alex J. Brady on one of her tweets. And so basically for Jabba's Palace, the production team experimented with this light alien. So there was meant to be a creature that was entirely made out of light, or
like Star Trek.
Not even. Either it was meant to be made out of light, or it was like very strongly bioluminescent or something. And it looks like one of those UFO encounter creatures. Remember the one with the like single monopod leg and a pineapple head and 2 tentacle arms?
Yeah, exactly. The one-footed snorkel.
So it looks like that. Yeah. So it looks like that, but the arms are way longer. They drag on the ground like a gorilla, and it's got light bulbs all over, and it looks bizarre. I will include a picture of this in the video cover image. So I don't know if you've heard of this, but this is like...
No, I've never heard of this.
This is the deepest pit of the Star Wars iceberg. Because this was just an experiment, so it appears only on like a part of one unofficial documentary or something. But yeah, the Return of the Jedi light alien, everybody. Just if you want to impress somebody with your knowledge of Star Wars, just bring this bad boy up. So yeah.
Yeah. The one trivia I know about Jabba's palace is that apparently in the beginning, when like Luke enters the palace, you can see like a weird robot spider in the back, and they wrote like a whole lore around this creature that apparently Jabba's palace used to be like a monastery for a weird religious cult where they
Bomar monks, yeah,
where they were like people once, and they give up their brain into a robot body and live on that way. And Jabba just like reused the monastery as his palace, and he let the people live there for his own amusement.
Yeah, it is implied in the books that this group of monks still survives in the palace, and actually in the legends, well, it used to be canon, but it's legends now. You know Bib Fortuna, the
snake head guy kind of.
Yeah, the major Dromo kind of guy. So he somehow survives the crash and comes back to the palace, but then the monks take over, and then he gets the brain treatment, and it's like a fate worse than death because he's trapped in the spider, thinking about all the sins he's committed and stuff like that. So
yeah. But I think that's not canon anymore because Bib Fortuna appears again in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, unfortunately not, but it's always be the truth of my heart's choosing. I think Star Wars ended when Return of the Jedi ended.
I wouldn't go that far. Like I do like. I mean, well, we're at.
You can like Rogue One. That's not stuff to do.
I mean, Solo was nice too.
Yeah, okay, you can like that too. Yeah.
I mean, but look, okay, I will be honest with you. I actually thought episode 7 and 8 were good movies. I liked those.
Okay.
9 just retroactively ruined the whole trilogy, and now I can't even watch those two.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I will just get so frustrated because I was genuinely excited for what episode 8 was setting up.
Yeah.
With like Rey not having any like notable parents, and Kylo being just like so far gone that he doesn't even care about good and evil anymore. I mean, that was new. That was exciting to see. I wanted to see where they were going with that, and then they just pulled the fucking somehow the Emperor returned, like the stupidest line in like recent movie history.
No, what they did wrong was, I mean, aside from certain structural limitations that the Disney process has, aside from that, what they did wrong was, remember those years, especially with the Trump election and all that, all those Star Wars hate channels were like really big all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. That episode 9 feels like it was written by Reddit.
Yeah, exactly. So they took those channels too seriously, and they said, we're gonna blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it's, I think, an unfortunate byproduct of shareholder filmmaking, because all those like YouTube morons were thinking, if they don't clean up their act, we're gonna boycott the next movie or something like that. Who the fuck cares? Nobody cared. It was just, I mean, people were watching that because it's good to hate watch shit, but it doesn't translate to anything real as a lot of that alt-right crew saw at the end of those years.
That's the one good thing. That's one of the good things about the George Lucas days, that he was able to pull through with his entire vision.
Exactly.
Like there is this interview where he says like, it's like he was building a house and he was painting it green, and someone comes up to him and says, I think this house would look better in white, and he says, well, if you think so, but I want my house to be green. That's how you can basically see his movies, like that it's how he wanted them to be, and I guess good for him. But in like sequel trilogy, like whose vision is it even? Because obviously Rian Johnson, like J.J. Abrams, typically he wanted to set up some mystery in the first part, which he probably didn't figure out at first. That's like one thing I hate about J.J. Abrams, like his like mystery box writing style, that he sets up a mystery and cares about the answer only way later, and then like fucks it up. Like he did that with Lost, he did that with Cloverfield, he did that with I think Star Trek even. And
you really ruined Star Trek too. He turned it into a weird like American college movie. And
exactly. Yeah, and
No, I think that guy, like, I don't think I'll ruffle any feather if I say that guy has like serious like mental limitations. Let us say. Anyways.
and yeah, and say what you will about Ryan Johnson, but I appreciated that he basically saw through that bullshit and basically said, none of that is actually important.
Yeah,
And-
I agree.
And
I
then
think,
J.J.
like,
Abrams, like, oh god.
Any cringe details which may have crept into Ryan Johnson's movie were maybe forced there by the studio system. And anyways, with that mindset, like, I mean, you have to understand, anybody listening, if you worked at a white collar job, like in a managerial office job, like, imagine how much you hate your coworkers sometimes. I hope you don't, but let's face it, it happens. Imagine how hard it is to like get a collective decision in a contemporary white collar office environment. So in Disney, especially with big IPs like Star Wars, that's how it was in those days. And the results are a complete unmitigated disaster. I think at the end of the day, look, movie direction is always like a gamble. You have to give unlimited power to one director, and it has to be his or her vision. You can't delegate this. It has to be one guy's story and his vision. And I mean, as a studio, you have to like bank on it. It's like a bet. Usually it succeeds, but with they spent $3 billion acquiring the IP, and they just wanted to do the best thing. So it was like very meddlesome, and like a lot of the problems.
It was $4 billion.
Yeah. Anyways, so
yeah, I also feel bad for George Lucas, because apparently the only reason why he sold it is because he didn't want to deal with the fans anymore.
Oh,
like he was like apparently so burned out for the hate that he reaped for the special editions and the prequels that he just said, "Look, if I'm not making these movies anymore, you can't attack me anymore." And that's so sad.
Oh, I always wondered if that was like a 4D gay ops chess move by Disney to kind of like get under his skin, because a lot of the hate for the prequels comes from the Red Letter Media or whatever, that weirdo YouTube show where they make like a spectacle out of like mocking the prequels unnecessarily and needlessly. It's like cyberbullying at the executive level.
Yeah, oh god, with the now that you mentioned cyberbullying, like those horror stories with what was his name, Jake Lloyd, the guy, the kid who played the young Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, I think Jake Lloyd's the name. Yeah,
like he got bullied until he had like schizophrenia from it, and that is such a bad. And apparently, and the guy who played Jar Jar, Ahmed Best, apparently he considered suicide at one point because of all the hate he received.
It's dark.
It's so horrible, and it happened again in like the sequel trilogy. Apparently with the girl who played Rose Tico. No, not Ray.
Oh yeah, the poor girl. Yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
like
God.
She had to delete all of her social media, and always, even in Obi-Wan, the TV show, the woman who plays the new like Inquisitor. She got like racist hate messages on Instagram. I even saw those because I was following her, and it's horrible how people who claim to love something just hate it.
I mean, a lot of that shit comes from America.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just like
it's all of these like like racist anti-SJW types almost. It's almost always
not even that. It's like, I think over there people have so much hate in their system that it needs just to go out somehow. And I don't know, like I think you have to like dig down to the roots of their society to really understand that, because it's
I don't think it's that deep that it's like American culture. I think it's just like internet culture, because like some of the very first review channels on YouTube were all about like hating things, like the angry video game nerd or the nostalgia critic. It was about like tearing into bad games, because it's much easier, I guess, to write about something you hate and like generate like comedy from that than it is about recognizing something good.
Yeah, but I'll push back a little. That whole angry nerd character, it's like a distinctly American type. I mean, you can get like similar people cropping up in Europe or wherever, but I mean, it's a kind of character that for better or worse, is one of the like industrial waste byproducts of American society. I don't know how it works, but like it's very clear to see. I think like this is a whole other story, of course, but I think it goes back to like institutionalized bullying in American schools and the very way how they have very little in the name of safety nets. So it's a turbocharged society. So like, I mean, you're either a winner or you're a loser, and like there's like a substantial portion of the population who just like feels better for dunking and hating on someone. I don't know. It's a long story. One of my many psychosocial hypotheses. But anyways, yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
What do you think, viewers? What do you think? Comment and let us know.
Exactly. We were still at episode 6, so like after they leave Tatooine, we enter Endor, and I think we only encounter the Ewoks on there.
Yeah, those are cute things. I mean,
I always liked them. Yeah, I liked the message behind them because like they're so cute and adorable that you wouldn't think they would play a big part in bringing down the Empire. And you kind of. But I love these kind of stories, where someone you underestimate actually pulls it off.
Yeah, they're like so well designed and so cute that you kind of suspend your disbelief. Yeah, okay, they can, I guess, throw stones and kill an entire battalion of stormtroopers or like push down a log and destroy one of those walking tanks.
I mean, that's the funny thing. In Swiss history, there is this very famous battle, the Schlacht of Morgarten, like the Battle of Morgarten, where the Swiss Confederacy defeated like a whole army of Austrian knights, pulling the same tactic that the Ewoks did with the AT-AT by rolling down all those rocks and tree stems down a hill towards the knight. And of course, the horses, they broke all of their legs, and the knights were useless after that, and were then like easily shot down with crossbows. And
interesting. I mean, I guess things like that could happen. I guess they could have shown Ewoks in a far more savage light, like than almost like Vietnamese guerrilla tactics, like or.
That was actually the intention by George Lucas, that they were like the space Viet Cong.
Exactly. But I guess it was a executive decision not to show them using explosives or laser stuff or whatever. When I got the old remake books about Return of the Jedi, there's one plate there that shows the original designs for the Ewoks. And before they settled on the cute teddy bear thing, they actually did a lot of wild experiments. At one point, they looked like these green, almost bird-like things with long faces like coatis and fur.
Kind of like the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal, no?
Yeah, but like pudgier and like almost chicken-shaped, and furry too. At one point, they considered having creatures that look like the Ewoks. So it's like a short teddy bear creature with a short neck. But actually, the arms and legs are very long, so it looks really uncanny. And the arms have like almost Therizinosaur-like claws on them. And they call this thing a Yuzum, Y-U-S-S-U-M.
Yeah. And but I don't know if this is true, but I remember reading somewhere that another early concept was that Endor was supposed to be the Wookiee home planet, and instead of little Ewoks, it was supposed to be all like Wookiees. But they couldn't find enough actors that were as large as Mayhew, so they settled for little aliens.
I guess. And then you also know the Ewoks special movies. They're like some very weird films that Lucasfilm wants to bury, but they exist.
Yeah, I mean, they are actually on Disney Plus, and I looked a little into them, and they seem cute enough.
Yeah. So in those movies, there's actually far more. They're like these like winged monsters. There's a giant spider that lives in a cave.
Yeah.
And
they're all in the wildlife of Star Wars, actually.
Yeah. They even have something called a Gorax, which is basically just a forest giant with gremlin-like ears.
Exactly. Yeah, I found it here, and it has like these boar wolves as a pet.
Yeah.
Also, that's the funny thing, the Ewoks have ponies, like literal actual Earth ponies with like no added like alien features.
Yeah, I mean, more proof for my galactic Florida hypothesis.
Galactic Florida, Galactic
Yeah.
Idaho.
No, Florida is where they release all the
All the wild
imported
animals. That's
reptiles.
what
Yeah.
you mean. Yeah.
Speaking of, it's nearly been 2 hours, and should we tackle episodes 1, 2, and 3 in another podcast?
I guess we almost have to, right?
Yeah, because there's just so much going on with those episodes. I mean, we could probably talk for an hour on the pod racers themselves alone. So
One hour Jar Jar special.
maybe I don't know, but like definitely.
Excuse me.
I think Jar Jar Binks, I don't know, he's an interesting character, but I mean, he's a known quantity.
I unironically love him.
I think he's like a great metaphor for sort of like these Green Party types who inadvertently usher in true fascism. But yeah, that's
I hate how much sense that makes in the context of the movies. I hate it.
yeah, exactly. So
These
I
are
don't know.
special powers to Emperor Palpatine. And
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
there is actually like a canon, like it's now canon novel where they explore what happened to Jar Jar after the prequels, and it's so sad because he actually feels guilt for giving Emperor Palpatine all that power. And he lives as like a street performer in the streets of because he was banished from
oh no.
and yeah, it's so sad. Like he becomes a street clown again, and
Oh no. I think it's almost like a tarot-like figure. You know, there's a tarot card that says the Fool, and
yeah,
it's very similar. But I think he deserved better. I don't know.
yeah,
Everyone makes mistakes. Come
yeah.
on.
I mean, they at least Ahmed Best, his actor, had a very awesome moment in The Mandalorian, where he played like a Jedi, the Jedi that saved Grogu from Order 66.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, and that was it The Mandalorian or was it one of the spin-off shows? I don't know. Anyway, they explained how Grogu was saved from Order 66, and it was this Jedi master played by Ahmed Best, of course without any of the CGI makeup, just as and it's such a nice tribute to the character, to the actor after everything he's gone through.
Yeah. I hope Disney paid all his like medical expenses and stuff too. I mean, look, fame at those levels is a hard business. I mean, you got people like John Williams who commit suicide.
But
you
mean Robin Williams?
Robin Williams,
still alive?
Yeah.
Was just
not the composer. Apologies. Yeah.
Robin Williams, the comedian.
Yeah. Or other people like Jim Carrey go through like intense psychological crises, and people like Macaulay Culkin, who was very famous for the Home Alone movies. Like, if you're a globally famous actor or actress, there's like 50-50 chance of you getting your life ruined. I think if you're a globally famous child actor or an actress, the chances go up to like 70 or 80%. It's grim, I think.
If you want to know where I am at in the movie that I've been running in the background, it's the fight against Darth Maul.
Oh.
And, like Obi-Wan is about to cut this motherfucker in half.
Oh, we'll take it.
Oh god. Then you think it's so amazing.
Oh yeah. So I guess this is a wrap for the Star Wars Trilogy Creature Special Part 1.
All right. Yeah, I guess that was it for now. Next time, the prequel trilogy and all of its gloriness.
Yeah. As always, please consider supporting us on Patreon. The links are in the video description and on the pinned comment. If you're watching an improved edition of this video at TK Sivgin's channel, please also...
Special edition.
Yeah, leave a comment there too. And also let us know what your favorite Star Wars creatures are. I mean, it's just generally nice to have a conversation in the comments. We both read it all the time, and it's also good for the algorithm. Well, that's that from me, TK. Any last words?
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Bye, everybody.
Ciao.